Welcome to Hidden Ties, where every story hides a deeper truth. I had just taken another sip of wine, feeling the heaviness of the glass in my hand, knowing it wouldn't be enough to drown out the whispers when my brother's fiancée, Layla, turned to me. Her eyes locked with mine, her mouth barely moving when she whispered, "Wait, you're Olivia Reed?" The entire room fell dead silent. My heart skipped a beat, and before I could process what was happening, I saw my mother, her face drained of color. I hadn't said a word all night. But this could change everything. Before we continue, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I'd love to know. It was a night like any other. At least that's how I tried to convince myself as I adjusted my dress in front of the bathroom mirror. The sharp scent of lavender from my perfume filled the space, but it couldn't mask the tightness in my chest. I wasn't supposed to be here. Not tonight. My name is Olivia Reed. I'm 52, single, with a career that's barely hanging on by a thread after the company I worked for filed for bankruptcy. No one talks about that much. I'm just quietly drifting through life in this little town I used to call home, the one I had left to escape from when I was younger, only to return with my tail between my legs a year ago. This dinner, this supposed celebration, was supposed to be my brother Ben's moment, Ben's engagement dinner. But everyone knew that it was also my shame. The family was so proud of Ben's life, his success. His fiancée, Layla, was a vision of everything I never was, perfectly put together, always poised. She was everything I could never be. I stepped out of the bathroom and into the living room where my parents, my brother, and a couple of his friends were mingling. My mother gave me a quick glance, just enough to remind me that she knew about everything that had gone wrong in my life. It wasn't said, but the look was enough. There was no warmth in it. "Olivia?" she said sharply, as if I were already ruining something. "Are you going to just stand there all night?" I tried to smile, but it felt like an awkward tug of muscles. "I'm just trying to gather my thoughts." "Well, gather them over there." She waved toward the dining table, a clear dismissal. I nodded, swallowing the knot in my throat. I made my way to the table where Ben and Layla were sitting, chatting happily about their upcoming wedding. "Olivia, so glad you could make it." Ben grinned, his arms wide. He was the golden child, the one who always got things right, the one my parents adored. My older brother and I was the mess up, the one who couldn't quite fit in, no matter how hard I tried. But I kept my mouth shut and smiled. Layla, with her radiant smile and soft voice, reached over to shake my hand. "It's so nice to finally meet you," she said, a little too loudly. "Ben talks about you all the time." I smiled again, this time a bit more genuine. "Nice to meet you too." I tried to keep my nerves in check as the dinner progressed, with small talk filling the gaps. The air smelled of grilled chicken and mashed potatoes, and I focused on keeping my mind off the uncomfortable silence at the table. I could hear the laughter of Ben and his friends, but all I felt was the heavy weight of failure pressing down on me. It wasn't just my job that was a disaster. My life had been a constant downward spiral. I had tried to make something of myself, really, but every time I picked myself up, something knocked me right back down. And yet, I kept pretending everything was fine. I kept my mouth shut, because I wasn't going to burden anyone with my problems. Then, it happened. Layla leaned in closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Wait, you're Olivia Reed?" The room went completely still. I turned toward her, trying to make sense of the words she had just said. For a moment, I thought maybe I had misheard her. Maybe she was just making conversation. But her eyes, they were locked on mine, wide with something I couldn't quite place. The room stopped. Everything, every voice, every laugh, every clink of silverware, halted. I felt my cheeks flush, and I knew my mother was staring at me. I didn't dare look at her. I just stared back at Layla, wondering if I should say something, but nothing came to me. "Wait," she said again, louder this time, her voice thick with recognition. "Olivia Reed? As in the Olivia Reed?" The name hit me like a slap to the face. "Yes," I said softly, my voice barely audible. Ben's eyes darted between us, and I could feel his confusion growing. But it was my mother, her face pale and her lips parted, that really stopped my heart. She didn't speak. Not a word. I wanted to shrink into the floor. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run far away. But I didn't. I stayed there, at the table, my brother's engagement dinner, a dinner that had suddenly turned into the worst night of my life. The tension in the room was thick. Ben cleared his throat. "Olivia, what's going on?" I took a deep breath. "Nothing. There's nothing. Just—" Layla's gaze didn't leave mine. Her smile faltered, and for a moment I saw something flicker in her eyes. A recognition, yes, but something more. Something darker. "Olivia, you don't remember me, do you?" she asked, her voice low now. I shook my head, unable to speak. Layla leaned in closer, her face a little too close to mine, and then she whispered, barely audible, but enough to send a shiver down my spine. "I was your college roommate. Don't you remember me now?" I froze. It couldn't be. But it was. I knew her. I knew exactly who she was now, and that was the moment everything changed. It was like a punch to the gut, her words hitting me harder than I could have ever expected. Layla, my former college roommate, sitting across from me with a knowing smile on her face. I hadn't thought about her in years. Heck, I hadn't thought about anyone from that time in my life for a long while. The person I had been back then was someone I didn't want to remember. Someone I'd buried deep, trying to forget the mistakes, the choices, the people I'd let down. But now, there she was, the face I hadn't seen in over 2 decades. She looked the same, perhaps even more polished, more put together than I remembered. But it was her eyes, the eyes that had once been filled with youth and ambition, that caught me off guard. They were different now, colder, sharper. There was a lot more behind those eyes than I had ever realized. I swallowed hard, fighting the wave of panic that threatened to rise in my chest. "Layla," I finally managed to say, my voice coming out strained. "I didn't—" Ben, still oblivious to the tension, leaned back in his chair, a grin on his face. "Wait a second, you two were roommates? That's crazy. I had no idea. This is amazing. We should catch up." But Layla wasn't looking at him anymore. Her eyes were fixed on me, and the smile that had been plastered on her face began to fade, replaced by something unreadable. "It's been a long time, hasn't it, Olivia?" I didn't know what to say. I wanted to get up, leave, disappear into the night. But the words were stuck in my throat, and I couldn't bring myself to make the move. You've done well for yourself," I said, barely hearing my own words. It sounded fake. I knew it did. But it was the only thing I could say. Her lips curled into a tight smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "Well, sometimes you just have to make things happen for yourself." There was something in her tone, something subtle but sharp, like she was making a point. My mind raced. I couldn't figure out why she had brought this up, why she had brought me up in front of everyone, and why now. I thought we'd left that past behind us, buried it under the weight of our separate lives. But apparently, Layla wasn't done with it. "I'm sure you're all wondering," she said, suddenly addressing the room. "You see, Olivia wasn't always this quiet and reserved. Back in college, she had a reputation." Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but it was enough for everyone to hear. My stomach twisted. I could feel my hands start to shake, my grip on my wine glass tightening to the point of pain. "Layla," I said, my voice shaking now, "please don't—" But she wasn't listening. "Oh, don't worry," she said lightly, her tone almost casual, as if she were speaking about the weather. "It's all water under the bridge now. I just thought I'd remind everyone of how impressive Olivia's journey has been." Her eyes flicked over to Ben, who was still oblivious to the tension building at the table. She was always good at making things interesting. I could feel my face burning with embarrassment. My mother's eyes were fixed on me now, her expression unreadable but clearly disappointed. I could tell she was starting to put the pieces together. My brother's expression flickered, a brief moment of confusion crossing his face before he turned back to Layla, clearly unsure of what was happening. But then Layla's gaze turned back to me, and I saw something dark flicker in her eyes, a shadow of something I didn't want to acknowledge, something sinister. "How long has it been, Olivia?" Layla asked softly, leaning in closer, her voice dripping with sarcasm. 22 years? Or has it been longer? I could feel the entire room watching me. My mother's gaze was burning into the side of my head, and I couldn't look at her. I couldn't. "Why are you doing this?" I whispered, the question barely audible, but loud enough for Layla to hear. "Because," she said, her voice lowering to a quiet intensity, "I know the truth about you." Her lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. "And the truth is, Ben doesn't know you the way I do." I felt the world tilt. My mind raced, my thoughts tumbling over each other, struggling to make sense of what she was implying. But I couldn't figure it out. Not yet. Not with the way the air had thickened around us. Ben looked back at me, his expression softening. "What is she talking about, Liv? I don't understand. Why is this a thing?" "Ben," I said quietly, trying to hold back tears. "You don't want to know." But Layla wasn't done yet. She turned to him, her expression softening into something more tender. "Oh, Ben," she said, reaching out to take his hand. "I didn't mean to make this awkward, but you need to know. Olivia." She paused, taking a deep breath, letting the silence drag on as if she were savoring every moment. "Olivia had a history, a past she's been trying to forget. And maybe it's time you finally hear about it." My world was shattering, piece by piece. Layla was opening the door to things I'd buried so far down that I thought they were gone. But there was no escaping now. My family was starting to connect the dots, and everything I had tried to forget was coming to light in front of my brother, my mother, and strangers I barely knew. "Layla, stop," I pleaded. "Please." But it was too late. Ben was looking at me now, eyes wide with disbelief. "What is she talking about, Olivia? What history?" I swallowed hard, my heart in my throat, and for the first time in years, I felt my old self, the one who had failed, the one who had lost everything, come rushing back. The air felt heavier now. The words that had been casually spoken moments ago by Layla with her smug smile and her venomous little whispers were now all I could hear. My brother's eyes were wide, filled with confusion and doubt. My mother, whose gaze had been locked on me since Layla's revelation, looked almost sad. Not angry, not disappointed, just sad. I could feel the weight of their eyes on me, on the broken parts of me I had hidden for years, locked away in a box so tightly sealed that I thought no one could ever open it. But Layla had just kicked that box wide open. I couldn't undo what had been done. I looked at my brother, Ben, the golden boy who had done everything right. He had always been the one with the perfect life, the perfect career, the perfect fiancée. And here I was, the older sister, a failure, a walking mess of lost chances and broken dreams. "Liv," Ben's voice trembled with confusion. "What is going on? Why didn't you ever tell me any of this?" I took a deep breath, my hands trembling as I pushed a strand of hair behind my ear. "Because you wouldn't understand, Ben," I said quietly, my voice breaking as I spoke. "You don't know what it's like to watch everything you touch fall apart, to try and fail every single time." Layla watched me closely, as though savoring the moment, savoring the slow, steady unraveling of my life in front of my family. I could see her satisfaction in the way she held herself, poised and still, as if she had been waiting for this very moment. It made my skin crawl. Ben, still trying to process, took a step closer to me. "What happened, Olivia? You were so different back then. You were smart. You had everything going for you. What changed?" I couldn't look at him, not when his face was full of pity, Not when he was looking at me like I was some stranger, like I had become a completely different person than the one he had known. I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to tell him how my life had fallen apart, how my career had collapsed, how I had tried to fix everything, only to watch it all slip through my fingers. But I couldn't. I couldn't put it into words, not when it felt like it would destroy everything he believed about me. So instead, I stayed silent. Layla's voice cut through the tension. You don't know the half of it, Ben. Olivia doesn't want to talk about what she's done, what she's become. But I do. I could feel my chest tighten as I braced myself for whatever she was going to say next. I knew this wasn't going to be easy. Layla turned her gaze back to me, her eyes glinting with something I couldn't read. It's time for everyone to know, Olivia. Don't you think they deserve to know the truth about you? I stood up abruptly, pushing my chair back so quickly it scraped against the floor. No, I snapped, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and anger. Stop it, Layla. You have no right. But she was already speaking over me. You don't get to hide anymore, Olivia. Ben deserves to know what kind of person you really are, what you really did to me. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a wave of cold wash over me. You remember, don't you? The night you ruined everything? I closed my eyes. I didn't want to remember. I didn't want to hear the words she was about to speak. But it was no use. Her voice pierced through the fog of my mind, pulling me back to a time I had fought so hard to forget. It was the night of our final exams, Layla continued, her voice dripping with disdain. You remember, don't you? The night you— Stop, I whispered, my voice hoarse, barely audible. But Layla didn't stop. You took everything from me, Olivia, she said, her voice rising now, filling the room with its venom. I worked so hard to get into that internship, the one that was going to change my life. And you— She stopped, her breath shaking with anger. You sabotaged me. You lied. You stole my chance. And you— She took a deep breath, her chest rising with the effort. You ruined my career before it even started. I couldn't breathe. The walls were closing in around me. Every word she said was a knife cutting into my chest, and I couldn't stop it. My mind was flooded with memories I didn't want to relive. That night, so long ago, when everything had spiraled out of control. I had done something terrible. I had made a choice that would haunt me for the rest of my life. And now, here it was, laid bare in front of my family. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath, but it was no use. My voice cracked when I finally spoke. I didn't mean for it to happen like that. Ben's expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to anger. What are you talking about? What did you do, Olivia? What did you do to her? I looked down at my hands, suddenly ashamed of everything. The lies, the deception, the things I had done to get ahead, to escape from the life that had trapped me. I had ruined Layla's future, and I could never take that back. I started, but the words stuck in my throat. I didn't want to ruin your life, Layla. I was desperate. I thought it would be the only way for me to survive. I thought if I took that internship from you, maybe it would make everything better. Maybe I could get the break I needed. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight of my sins pressing down on me. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. Layla's face twisted with disgust. Desperate? Is that your excuse, Olivia? After everything you did to me? After everything you took from me? You're pathetic. The words hit me like a slap in the face, and I felt the sting of shame burn in my chest. But there was something else there, too. Something darker, something that had been simmering beneath the surface for years. The need for revenge. The room was suffocating now. I could barely breathe as Layla's words echoed in my ears. Pathetic. I could hear her voice as if it were a song stuck in my head, repeating over and over, taunting me. And yet, as much as I hated hearing it, a part of me couldn't help but feel that she was right. I had been pathetic. I had let desperation drive me to do things I could never take back. I had hurt people I cared about in ways that were irreversible. I looked around at my family. My mother, who had always been so proud of me, was now staring at me as if I were a stranger. I could see the disappointment in her eyes, the same look I had seen when I had dropped out of college years ago, the same look that haunted me in my dreams. Ben, too, was staring at me, but now his face was twisted with anger, disbelief, and something else I couldn't quite place. His gaze flickered between me and Layla, as though trying to understand how the person he had known, his older sister, the one who had always been his protector, could be the same person who had hurt someone so close to him. "I can't believe this," Ben finally said, shaking his head. "Olivia, I thought you were better than this. How could you do that to her?" I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. I couldn't explain myself. I couldn't give him a reason that would make sense. There was no excuse for what I had done. Layla, for her part, was watching me with an expression that was almost pitying. But it wasn't the kind of pity that made me feel sorry for myself. It was the kind that made me feel even smaller, as though she were looking down at me from some moral high ground. "You ruined my career, Olivia," she repeated, her voice cold, emotionless. "And you ruined me. You destroyed my future. Do you even realize how much you've cost me?" I closed my eyes, trying to block her words out, but they were searing through my skull, making my mind spin. The guilt had already been gnawing at me for years, and now it was consuming me completely. I was suffocating under the weight of my own mistakes, but beneath the guilt, something else was stirring. A dark, vengeful thought that had been growing in the shadows of my mind since Layla had walked into that room. I had tried so hard to escape my past, but now it was staring me in the face. The woman I had wronged was standing here, holding my future hostage with the power of her words, and I realized something. I was tired of being the one who always lost. I was tired of feeling sorry for myself, of letting my past failures define me. If I had done something wrong, I could make it right, no matter the cost. If Layla thought she could ruin me by exposing my secrets, then I'd show her how wrong she was. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I would get my revenge, not just on Layla, but on everything I had let control me for so long. I would fight back. But how? How could I possibly turn the tables now, after everything that had already come to light? The answer came to me slowly, like a seed being planted in the darkest corner of my mind. I would use the very thing that had ruined me in the first place. The truth. The truth that no one knew, the one Layla had been waiting to expose. What if I controlled the narrative? What if I could turn the truth into my weapon? But to do that, I had to trust myself again, something I hadn't done in years. I looked up at my brother, who was still standing there, his face a mix of confusion and anger. "Ben," I said softly, my voice steadying, "I know this is hard to hear. I know I messed up. I know I hurt Layla. But please, listen to me. You don't know everything." He opened his mouth to respond, but I held up a hand, silencing him. "You think I ruined Layla's life, don't you?" I said, the words coming out with an edge I hadn't intended. "You think I'm the villain here, but you don't know what she did to me. You don't know the full story." Ben looked confused, his brow furrowing as he tried to follow my train of thought. "What are you talking about?" Layla, ever the calm one, finally spoke again. "Oh, Olivia, don't even think about turning this around. You don't get to play the victim here. You are the villain." I felt a surge of anger rise within me. This wasn't just about defending myself anymore. This was about taking control of my own narrative, about making sure that when this was all over, Layla wouldn't be the only one with power over the story. "You want the truth, Layla?" I said, my voice low and dangerous. "The truth is, you weren't the only one who had things taken from them. You weren't the only one who lost everything. I lost everything too, and I will make sure the world knows what you did to me. I will make sure everyone knows who the real villain is in this story." The room went silent. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. but it wasn't the panic I had felt earlier. No, this was something different. This was control. Layla's face faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to catch it. There it was, the crack in her armor, the vulnerability I had been searching for. Ben, still trying to process everything, was looking back and forth between us, clearly torn. "What do you mean, Liv?" he asked softly, his voice filled with uncertainty. "What's going on? What did Layla do to you?" I took a deep breath. "I'll tell you everything, but not here. Not now. You deserve to hear the truth, Ben. You deserve to hear everything that happened. And when you do, you'll understand why I did what I did." I turned to Layla, my gaze unwavering. "You might think you've won, but the truth is, Layla, you've just set the stage for everything to come crashing down." The room remained still, as if the very air had thickened with the weight of what I had just said. I could see Layla trying to maintain her composure, but her eyes flickered for a split second, her calm facade cracking under the pressure of my words. She wasn't prepared for me to fight back. She had assumed I would sit there, humiliated, swallowed by guilt and regret. But I wasn't that woman anymore. I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't just the desire for revenge anymore. It was power. I was taking control of my own story, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't going to let someone else write the narrative, not even Layla. Ben looked from me to Layla, his face a picture of confusion. "Olivia, you keep saying there's more to this. What is it? What is it that Layla did to you?" I could feel my pulse quickening. This was it. This was the moment where everything would either break wide open or implode. Layla opened her mouth to speak, but I was faster. "You don't get to control the story anymore," I said, stepping closer to her. My voice was steady, but beneath the calm, there was a fire. "You think I've been hiding in shame? That I've been sitting here all these years, letting you play the victim and me the villain? Well, guess what? It's not going to work anymore." Layla's eyes narrowed as she took a step back, trying to regain her composure. But I saw it in her, the fear, the uncertainty that I had found her weakness. That was the moment I knew. She had no idea what was coming next. I turned to Ben, not letting my gaze falter for even a second. "What Layla never told you, Ben, was that the internship she was so desperate for, the one she claims I stole from her, wasn't even the reason she was going to get ahead. Do you know what she did to get into that program?" Ben shook his head, confused. "No, I don't. Layla lied, Ben. She lied about her entire application. She used me. She sabotaged my career first, and then turned around and tried to make it look like I was the one who ruined hers." I paused, letting the words sink in. I wanted them to settle like stones dropped into a pond, slow, deliberate, and sinking deep. Ben's face morphed into disbelief as he processed what I had just said. "What are you talking about? She told me you were the one who—" I cut him off. "I know what she told you, Ben. She's good at twisting the truth. But she didn't tell you everything, did she? She didn't tell you about how she bribed the program director to make sure I was passed over for that position, so she could take it. She didn't tell you about the secret meetings she had with the hiring manager, using my personal information to climb over me. She didn't tell you how she destroyed my reputation to make sure she got ahead." Ben looked like he was about to explode. That's impossible. Layla, tell me she's lying." Layla opened her mouth to deny everything, but I could see the hesitation in her eyes. For the first time, I saw the cracks in her perfect story. She was caught, and no amount of manipulation could undo the truth I was laying out. "Layla, tell him," I repeated, my voice now growing colder, more certain. "Tell him how you played me like a pawn, made me feel like I was nothing, and then pushed me into a corner where I had no choice but to lash out. Tell him how you used my dreams and crushed them under your heel just so you could get ahead." Ben looked at her, his eyes hardening. "Is this true, Layla?" Layla remained silent, her face twisted with the fear of being exposed. Her perfect life, the one she had carefully built, was beginning to unravel before her eyes. The lie she had built was no longer enough to protect her. And in that moment, I realized something else. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted justice. I wanted Ben to see the truth. I wanted my family to know exactly what Layla had done to me, what I had been living with for years. The weight of it had crushed me, but it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about her, too. "You can't silence me anymore, Layla," I said, feeling the truth burn hot in my chest. "This time, the truth is coming out. No more lies, no more pretending." Layla's eyes flicked around the room, and for the first time I saw fear in her eyes. She knew she was trapped. "I didn't—" she started, but her voice wavered, faltering under the weight of my words. But it was too late. Ben had seen enough. "Enough, Layla," he said, his voice sharp. "I can't believe I ever trusted you. I thought you were the one who had it all figured out, but now I see the truth. You've been using me, using Olivia, everyone, for your own gain." Layla stood there, motionless, her perfect smile now gone, replaced by the cold, raw reality of being exposed. The woman who had manipulated everyone around her, including me, was now broken, and the weight of her own lies had come crashing down. Ben turned back to me, his face softer now, the anger and confusion replaced by something I hadn't expected. Understanding. "I had no idea, Liv. I didn't know any of this. I'm sorry. I should have been there for you." I smiled weakly, the weight of the past few hours pressing down on me. "It's not your fault, Ben. I kept it all locked away. But now I'm done hiding." The room was silent for a long time after that, each of us lost in our own thoughts. My mother, who had been quiet through the entire confrontation, finally spoke up, her voice trembling slightly. "Olivia, I'm sorry. I never knew. I didn't know the full story." I nodded slowly, the tears threatening to break free but staying at bay. "I didn't want you to know. I thought I could fix everything on my own, but now I see that I don't have to do it alone." Ben put a hand on my shoulder. "We're here for you, Liv, and we're going to make sure Layla doesn't get away with this." Layla, meanwhile, stood frozen, unable to speak. She had lost. In front of everyone, she had lost. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I wasn't the villain in my own story anymore. This was my moment, my turn to rise. And no one, especially not Layla, was going to take that away from me.